I'll call this meeting to order. This order investing in infrastructure advisory committee, November 6th. I'd just like to take one moment of silence to reflect on today's business. Thank you. Now, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, you can declare at any time. Going through today's meeting. Public participation. Members of the public are encouraged to provide the committee with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released. Members of the public who wish to make a deputation about a specific agenda item at the meeting must register in advance with legislative services by 4 p.m. on November 5th, 2024 by contacting clerk@meaford.ca or 519-538-1060, extension 1110. Presentations are limited to 10 minutes and deputations are limited to 5 minutes. Today we have no presentations that you know of. Thank you. Or deputations on agenda items, we have nothing. Okay, so I'll go to number 5, approval of the minutes, which is in your package. Do we need a motion to? Can I get a motion and a seconder? Harley? Kevin? All in favor? Approved. Thank you. Thank you. It says roundtable. Can you explain what that would be? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Eric, we've our last agenda was 800 pages long. It's mostly about the sewage treatment plant. Is there anything you want to talk to? We'll start over here with Kevin. What you've got interest in? Need your.
On that note, no, I've talked to many neighbors that back on to the new area proposed for. They know it's coming
Proposed for, oh, okay.
for the build. Just the concern of the traffic flow because the Memorial Park uses that same route. That's their concern. The traffic flow, the walkers, everything else is a concern for that area. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be one of them unnecessary evils several years from now, so they shouldn't be worried about this year or next. But yeah, duly noted, and I'm sure Jessica will have an answer to rectify that. Just traffic flow for when we rebuild the sewage treatment plant.
You're right, it is an unnecessary evil through you, Chair. We actually, part of the design considerations in general was if there's a different way to get to it, or if there's like an alternate route. It doesn't appear that there's anything easy, but to say that that's off the table, I think it will all, until we get to the point of building it, I think looking at alternative ways to get to it, we might be very limited, but it's on everyone's mind, that's for sure. And just with volume of traffic, type of traffic, like there might not be another way to do it, but in those instances, a lot of conversations around how are we going to make it better? You know, if it has to happen that way, then what are we going to do to make it better for people who have to live through it? So at some point in the next years when we're having these discussions, I'm sure we'll hear about that from the community. And it's already something that everyone involved has been thinking about for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Harley? Anything on your mind for infrastructure? Microphone, please.
Back at the meeting that you and I attended a week ago, I provided quite a list of items, and so I don't have anything to add to the list. I think that was long enough as it was, Mr. Chair. But there's just a lot going on in the infrastructure world right now. But I was willing just to wait and talk about these county transfers that are coming up or maybe coming up, and so that's kind of where I was hoping to ask some questions today, and totally expecting Jessica to have answers for all of them, as always.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into that shortly. Eric?
Thank you very much. I would just thinking on wastewater, I would echo kind of what I've heard from Kevin and from Jessica. It seems as though basically everybody's on side with the fact that like, it needs to happen. There's ongoing concerns, just with the inconvenience of any major project, but generally speaking, when I talk to people, everything's been relatively supportive. We need to do it. Nobody's happy about it, but we're all happy to accept that, I think. For projects of interest to myself, I've been in a couple of conversations with interest around bridges, the twin bridges, bridges 21 and 22, and suspect that some members of the community will be presenting at the capital budget meetings coming up.
You're presenting.
Just some input. So there was the report that said that the team is like willing to take or looking to take some feedback from members of the community. And so some suggestions of how to do the project the best possible way for like maximizing financial efficiencies as well as ecological benefits. So that once those are prepared, those thoughts should be coming in.
Well, FYI, the bridges 21 and 22, the tender has gone out, it's been accepted. The bridges are built. The steel bridges are done. And the bridges may start to go in next Monday.
That is very good to know. Thank you.
And it should take 2 weeks to do the bridges, maybe 3. But as we stand, it's up to the builder. He's ready. The cement pads are poured from Barrie. There's a company in Barrie, they're poured. And the steel, I had my hands on the steel bridges in Chelmsford above Sudbury in August. They are done, and fingers crossed, they should start Monday.
Okay, that's good. Do you happen to know if you could comment quickly? I'll have to look up the designs, but are they still set to be two twin bridges?
That is correct.
Okay.
There'll be 2 bridges. They just not possible to make it into one, and we were not allowed to close one of the bridges down for the creek, even though the creek almost dried up. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yes, through the chair. So all of the timeline information is exactly what I know. There was an EA complete. So like that was finalized, I'm going to say a month ago at this point now. It has been posted for comment, like all the things that it needs to be. So if there's concern from an environmental perspective, like there is that information available, which was included archaeological and all the good stuff. And also permitting from the CA. So if there are concerns regarding that side of things, there is information available if people are looking for a riveting read.
Thank you.
And FYI, Eric, Gray Solve Conservation has been deep into this.
Mhm.
That's one thing that's held us up a little bit, so they're going to be involved.
Okay, thank you. I noticed, because I was looking at this, the web page, the other day. And if the project is that far ahead, that's great. But that's not reflected on the web page. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Harley.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. On the subject of the twin bridges, I understand the present bridges and their abutments have to be taken out. There'll be,
The abutments are going to stay.
okay. Are there not going to be new pre-built abutments going?
In behind the old
Behind-
abutments.
Okay, so, all right. So the actual new bridges, from what I've heard, are going to be longer than each of the old ones.
That
but
is
there
correct.
will still be a strip of road. And, a little bit of approach work and, well, from both sides. So, you know. No, just from what I've heard, a couple of weeks could make a huge difference out there.
Yes, I watched them do the same company did Snake Creek on the other side of Chatsworth. I watched the process for 9 days, start to finish, done, gone. And that's what they do, but they're going to leave the abutments in, they'll take the deck off. And there's new poured concrete abutments going to sit on a bed of gravel behind them abutments. And then the steel deck goes from abutment to abutment. Yeah, okay. Anything else on your mind? Harley had quite a list when we set the agenda. None of them are on here. We're going to go over that list and try to get them on some of them on the next agenda. Thing I would want to talk about is the budget that is put upon us. I've gone through it. I don't understand it. I have no comment at this time. And it's too bad. I wish I did and wish I had a better handle on going forward on the capital budget going forward. So it'll have to wait till next meeting before I can or will comment on it. Yes, Eric.
Thank you. Is it, I guess it's not, as far as I understand, the budget is set to be approved in December, which is it gonna line up with, like, to be before our next meeting or after our next meeting?
I'm sorry, through the chair, I actually believe we don't meet till the new year. I believe, so as of right now, the budget is set for approval on December the 9th.
Correct.
So technically before the next time we're together, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So having said that, Eric, if you get into the budget and see something, you have a question, don't be afraid to ask. You've got my number, you've got my email. We'll get some answers for you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it for the round table. Now, communications, number 7, communications. The committee will consider correspondence received by members of the public during each meeting. To share your comments, thoughts, or concerns with members of the committee, the public can send an email to clerk@meaford.ca. When emails are received to this email address, they will be compiled into a correspondence list, which is then distributed to the committee members prior to the meeting. The cover sheet of this list will be included on each meeting agenda. The contents of the correspondence list are not included on the public agenda to protect the privacy and personal information of those residents who choose to send in their thoughts and comments. Go to 7A is a Grey County report. It's on urban roads and road exchange task force recommendations from the county. Do you know, you got anything prepared for us, Jessica, on that? Do you understand what they want to do? I know the road they were wanting to exchange with us a few years ago is not on the list. So the way I read this thing is they want to download 2 roads on us, but aren't taking anything back. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair. So I don't have anything formally, but we did actually meet about it on Friday, so it's fairly fresh in my memory. Um, the report is different than when we saw it last for sure. It included urban and rural roads,
Mhm.
and some of which were in exchange. You're not wrong. I asked the same question. Um, this iteration, they were telling us that the urban roads are being considered separately from rural roads. And at this moment, there are only 4 rural road exchanges that are taking place, and none of them are within our boundary. So it sounds like they have a long list, which they said they would share, of rural road exchanges like the one they had proposed before. And just for everyone's benefit, it was well, where our Patrol B shop is. But I don't remember what they were exchanging it for, though, to be honest with you.
That is actually concession 8
Yeah,
or Gray Road 11, and they were going to take over concession 10.
yeah, that's right. So that isn't in the first 4 of whatever they're proposing, and they didn't share, they verbally shared them, but I don't know, they're not us, so that's all I know. What I do know is that there are 2 locations within urban Meaford that they are looking to offer to us. Um, it's from, so County Road 7, which we just reconstructed last year with them. They didn't exactly say where, but essentially from the bottom of the hill to the intersection. So, and including the intersection, which would become ours, which is currently the county's. And then the second is 12. So, coming into town all the way down the hill to that intersection as well, which is 26 and Miller Street,
Sykes Street.
Sykes Street. So that's, both are long sections. The conversation, it's not an exchange. They're not taking anything away from us. It is them giving them to us because it's been deemed that it's easier if it's just one tier of government to be the owners of. That is essentially what we got from the conversation. There's a lot of things that come out of that. So addressing, maintenance, like there's a lot of, it's not as easy as just here you go. So in this report, they identify that starting next year, they're starting to pay people for, or put away money for giving to the folks who are getting these sections. I also have asked that they share their capital program because these were in there somewhere. And my understanding just from talking to them is that 12 was scheduled, I believe, for 2028 in their world. So that information for both sections and like what it included and what the cost was, they're all going to share with us, but it hasn't been shared yet. But I do know that, and I think it's fair to say that what they're proposing won't cover the costs of what the work would be. So there's definitely still opportunity for back and forth on what the expectations are for us to take those pieces. Sorry that that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
It was a lot of information to receive.
Any comments around the table on this? Eric?
What would the insure, like liability sort of obligations be wrapped up in that? Because like that 7 and 26 and intersection's kind of crazy. And I don't know if there's like a significant accident record at that corner, but I think that would be something to consider. And whether or not that's something the municipality would want to change or leave as is.
Through the chair, certainly the intersection was brought up in the conversation because since the school's relocated, I think it's really highlighted the challenges at that intersection is a fair statement. The county said a few times that obviously they're doing this with all municipalities, like it's not just with us, there's a lot of other sections. But they anticipate counter conversations that might be, are you going to do it first and give it to us? Like if, if something was scheduled in 2026, are you just gonna do the work anyway? And then like, we'll take it over then. But I think for that particular location, the understanding is it was just done. So I think we would just be getting it the way that it is, from my understanding, but you're not wrong. Like there's a lot to consider with that intersection for sure.
Harley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of things pertaining to the County Road 7, first of all. I think this is one we have to be very careful with. The first thing that comes to mind is the fact that we have a new school there that already has 10 portable units, and all indications are that there's going to be more. There's going to be more enrollment at that school, and that's going to interpret into more traffic getting into that location. I have had the privilege of being up there a couple of times between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's pretty chaotic up there getting in and out around the parking lot. So I'm not sure we have the turning lane now, which has helped. There's no doubt about it. I'm just worried that if it ends up more traffic coming from the east, mainly from the Blue Mountains way, if that may someday warrant another turning lane coming the other way on 7. The other thing is, Jessica, you mentioned the bottom of the hill. I don't think we have any stormwater management problems along that road, but that's something I think we should just kind of keep in mind. Obviously, it does run down Whitelaw's Hill. The other thing is the intersection at County Road 7 and John Muir Street. Over in Kent on Union Street, we do have another subdivision plan there with what, 50 some new detached and semi-detached, and that's likely going to interpret into an increase in traffic at that corner, like, and that'll affect to a degree County Road 7 or municipality Meaford Road 7, whatever it becomes. So that's just a couple of things that maybe we should just, kind of keep in mind when we start thinking about the downloading and the costs in the future.
Through the chair, that's wonderful. I actually feel like my memory is not my strongest quality, but I think this is a great opportunity for this committee we have the opportunity still to provide feedback to the county. So how it was left with me was, here's all this information. We'll send you more information. But then we need to write a report to council explaining all of this, because council hasn't formally been told either, like it kind of, but not really. And what we think we want to make sure we don't miss. So some of these thoughts are great ones. And I wonder if this might be a good opportunity for the committee, and you're taking notes, but we can put together everyone's comments, and it is like a formal addition to the staff report, because these are great thoughts, and I feel like we're just going to have some more of them, but food for thought, maybe that's something we could put together.
Yeah. The way I read this, they were going to upgrade the road before they downloaded it. And that's not what you think?
Through you, I think in some instances they might. So, and I forget, I think it was West Gray, maybe there were some sections of road that were scheduled to be done by the county next year and the year after. So I do believe that in those particular instances where they've already budgeted, they're down the road in design, like I think those will be done and then given to the respective municipalities. I don't believe that for ours.
So on 12, where is it? From the top of the hill down to the intersection, is that where we're talking, or where does it start? And what would they do? Just repave it? Because that's all they're responsible for, correct?
Through the chair. So yes, I believe it's the 7th line down to the intersection at 26.
7th line,
Mhm.
okay, okay. That's a
And-
bigger chunk.
My understanding, which they'll share exactly the sections, but that there were 2 sections that they had in for their capital project, and it was, don't quote me, but it was somewhere around where the new subdivision is proposed at the
Yes.
top of the hill, and then not again until pretty much the top right before the hospital down through to the intersection. So they weren't looking to do the whole thing at once, but there are definitely 2 pieces that they'd like to do consecutively. One will have underground infrastructure, one will not, if it's where they're saying. And I mean, the hospital is its own can of worms with access and all the things. So they're very different pieces, but I think they were planning to do them at the same time. But now, because they weren't planning to do it until 2028, I think they're offering to give us financial things in order for us to do it.
And that's the 1,148,000. That's our portion, not split amongst the other ones. That's our portion.
Yes, through the chair. So I think they broke it out and I had it open.
And that's a
here.
one-time fee.
It was over 10 years is my understanding. They had a pretty fancy spreadsheet, which I thought was in this report, that identified from next year until 10 years from now that they would pay a certain amount of money. So thank you.
Yeah, on page 8, it says 1,148,000 in 2025 with inflationary increases over the remaining 9 years. But it didn't say that was to Meaford. Is that to all the municipalities?
They're all slightly different. Oh, there we go. Oh, here it is. So they have it broken out per, like they have, like, I think you're right, it's page 5 is the funding model. And this is what they shared with us too. So they have each municipality, the number of kilometers, what's being transferred, and over a 10-year period, how much money essentially each year, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, I was unsure what Meaford was going to get it. I've read it a few times and it just didn't make any sense to me.
but this was the concern that we had, was that we're saying, and I'm, you know, it's all still somewhat preliminary, so there's still conversations to be had, but 1.438 over 10 years, the project alone on 12 has the potential to be more than that. So obviously there's more conversations to be had about that. And I think they know that.
Yeah. I would certainly want to get it. I didn't understand exactly what we would get. Now, does Meaford have anything in the queue in the next few years for that? Are we not going to possibly run new sewer and water to this new subdivision on 12?
Through the chair, yes, that possibly. I think that's fairly preliminary as well, but if something happens in that area, then they will need services. So whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I don't want to pave that section or have them pave that section, then we rip it up. I just don't want to go down that road. Yeah, if we could get some more clarification on exactly
Mhm.
the Meaford portion of it, this is broke out all over the whole county. I'd like some more clarity on what we're going to get for what, when.
So through you, yes, 100%. Once I get the actual costing from them for what they've proposed in their capital plan. I'll be sharing it with council and when they had proposed to do it. That was also like, it isn't currently in our plan, so it's not something that we had. So whenever that falls into, there'll be other things that we are going to be doing at the same time, and maybe there's a way to make that all work, but there's definitely more conversations to be had. But this is what they're planning on giving us, financial.
And would we have a worksheet on what it's gonna cost for us winter and summer maintenance on them two sections?
There, through the chair, yes, their maintenance folk, he was there as well, and they can share that information with us too.
Okay. So more to come, maybe more in depth to come. Do you think they want this to happen in 2025?
Through the chair, that's a great question. I asked the same thing because the report says this money is starting to be compiled, distributed, saved next year. And I think we're only the third municipality that they had spoken to. They obviously have quite a few more, and conversations are going into December. So I think they believe that this won't be a next year thing, but on paper, that's what they're saying right now. So I'd say we have a little bit of time because there's going to be a lot of negotiation, I
Yeah.
think.
So like this committee does not tell you what to do when. We could offer advice back to council.
Yep.
Should we offer advice to council for council to bring it ahead so you can get more information, or you're doing that anyways?
Through the chair, I'm doing that anyway, but once it does, it would be, once we have the detailed information, some of the things that we've talked about today and we'll talk about, I think is great suggestions to provide to council through the committee when this time comes, I think.
And so you'll keep us apprised on
Yep,
that.
for sure I will,
Because
yes.
I would like this committee to offer some sort of
Mhm.
advice to council.
I think that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Kevin.
Through you, just suggesting, in my past careers, I've seen infrastructure be placed, and then a year later, the other company come in and place infrastructure on top of that, causing an incredible amount of damage to the first one. And then 2 years later, a tertiary company comes in and puts infrastructure through, damaging both of the two of them that have been placed. I'm talking telecommunication, or hydro and other. So I think what we need to do is find out when these new subdivisions are planning to put a shovel in the ground and address those roads after all that work has been done. Like you said, Chairman, to rip up the roads again, just to put new accommodating sewer. So that would be great if we can put the two dates together. And before we make a step forward that we're going to take over the road, we need to know when this new subdivisions are going to be built.
Yeah, and truthfully, I don't think we know. It could be 4 years out on a couple of them. We're talking, it could take up to 4 years for it to start, so.
So is there any way we can hold this money in trust if we don't want to touch the road until this work is done?
I, through the chair, am not 100% sure on how they see us receiving the money, whether it's annual payments or at some point over the 10 years. I think, I don't know yet is the best way to put it, but I think anything is possible if they're willing to give it to us for that. We can obviously put it away until we're able to do it. But I'm not too sure what their expectation is on transfer.
Yeah, I'd like more clarity on what they're giving us when, and I doubt that they would expect us to spend it that year. It's in lieu of work that needs done. But if we have to redo section of 12, it's going to be a lot more money than they're offering. So the more information I can get, the more I'd appreciate. Yes, Harley.
Thank you. Yeah, on the subject of the development schedules, that that project was sent to OLT, was it not? To some, and I think that's still ongoing, so that has to be settled first. I mean, we have, we've got some developments like Loon Call that within a year or two, they were at it. We've got one like Baybounds that took 13 years to get started. So I think I'm not sure how big the water line is along County Road 12. It goes out and across Gardner, and but I think we have to keep in mind, I could be wrong in this, but if they're talking all the way out to the 7th, there are two 10-acre parcels on the north side of County Road 12. I think that area is zoned for future development or has been approved for future development all the way out to the 7th and across to the highway at the other side, on the east side of the road. So here again, that's might be decades down the road, but it'd be good to know about, to know what might happen out there in the next 10, 20 years. When it comes to taking over this road, I'm only guessing, but I'm knowing Mr. Hoy over at the county a little bit. I don't think Pat's looking to lose money on this deal. I think he's likely thinking. I mean, the county's has the same budgeting problems we have, and they're. I think they have a bona fide reason for these downloads, and it may seem appealing to the lower tiers at the time, but we don't want it to come back and haunt us in the.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else, Kev, Eric? Okay, well, that would conclude our little meeting on this, as long as, Jessica, you could get back to us on exactly what they're offering when. 'Cause I can't dig it out of there. It's a little confusing to me. Is the 1.14 million divided up amongst 9 municipalities, and each year that it's going to go up? If you could get back to us on that, I'd appreciate it. Date of the next meeting, do we have that? So it'd be in January. Yeah. And Eric, speaking out of turn here, but I hope I can delay the budget until into January. So that is my goal. Thank you. So I will call for adjournment. We don't need a motion for it. I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.